really nice when someone else does all the work and you get all the glory. Welcome back to the Scale Builders Guild. Thanks again for watching. It's episode 3 of Road to the Rockies. And there is significant progress this week and some surprises, at least for you. It's not a surprise for me. I already know what's happening. Let's start talking about Class 1 because that is primarily the most interesting project. And in last week's episode, we had already taken the hood out of the mold. And here it is. That mold is actually right up there still. That's going to be, I think, a bit of a trophy for a while. This week's mold, much easier. But we'll get to that. Anyway, the mold worked great for the hood. I loved getting that carbon fiber weave in there and getting the pattern to be pretty straight, I have to say. It actually looks pretty darn good. This is still unpolished, unfinished, untrimmed. It's still very much the raw piece. I'm sort of working in a slightly different way. I'm getting all the pieces out of the molds and then I'll finish them. I don't know why. It's just, you know, that's just my process. It's how it's working for this one. But yes, the hood looks fantastic. Really, really excited about how that turned out. Cannot wait to sand and finish and give it a nice glossy clear coat on top. There are a couple different ways to go about that. You can do a spray, like a 2K clear, which is super bad for you. Don't breathe any of that stuff in. Or you can do what I'm going to do and just do a resin top coat, which is basically, you know, the same sort of resin that you would use to finish a bar. It's like a wooden bar. That's exactly what this is for. But it's epoxy resin for super gloss coating. This one is a 1-to-1 A to B. And I used it before. Actually, you know what? I'll get a piece so you know what I'm talking about. I used it last year on the Monthly Mayhem project for the V-Speed Phoenix. And yeah, as you can see, it does give it a really nice gloss coat. And it looks very professional. That's why I like the look of this. And that's exactly what I'll be using again on these new pieces. So that's going to be what these will look like eventually. This one, of course, was molded out of a piece of foam. And I just laid the CF on top of it. So it's not by any means the sharpest looking mold, but with these nice new pieces, we're going to get this kind of gloss, but on a much smoother surface. It's going to be like a mirror. I'm really, really excited about that. So yeah, that's the hood. And then for today's episode, Josh shared his fender files with me. This is the mold as you would start with. And believe it or not, I was able to keep the mold for this piece. I am so impressed with myself because here it is. Here's the front headlight here and the fender, and all this will get cut away, and that's where your wheel and tire will go. But man, oh man, this one came out so much easier, and I chalked that all up to using enough mold release. That wax is super key to this process and will give you a much smoother, sharper, and better end result. You can see where the cut points are going to be, and man, it just worked so well. I ended up using 4 layers of carbon fiber sheet on this one. I'll do the same thing on the other side so we get uniformity, but it was also to give it a nice, strong, super rigid structure and a little more weight lower on the vehicle as opposed to on the hood. So I'm so excited with how this turned out. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. And you can see the weave is almost perfectly straight all the way along the edge there. And that's exactly what I was going for. I purposely laid it in such a way that it was going to come out that way. And I could not be happier. It looks so good. I'm really, really excited. Now, I don't need this mold again, but I'm just really happy that it managed to come out in one piece. Like every single piece could be reused if I needed to. Plenty of mold release is really the key to getting these things out, like I said. Yeah, I'm just so chuffed. Following Josh's advice, I did trim off the bottom edge and a little bit off the top of this mold in order to make it get out of that mold easier. And this part down here, we don't really care about because we're not using any of that. The The mold line really is right there, and that's where the edge of the fender goes. So all of this doesn't end up getting used, so it doesn't matter what that looks like there. But yeah, it just worked perfectly this time. So much better than the first time. No muss, no fuss. So in order for these pieces to be finished properly, they do need to be trimmed, sanded, and then coated with some sort of gloss. The trimming part, I will tell you right now, you need to wear a mask, and not just a particle mask. You need to wear a full-on mask, and that's like one that has like 3M filters and stuff, because trimming carbon fiber, the dust that comes off of this with the epoxy and the carbon fiber is so bad for your lungs. It can literally damage them irreparably. So I highly recommend that if you're going to start trying this process at home, you get yourself a really good quality mask. Maybe even go one step further and trim it outside. That's what I do with your rotary tool, because it's really super bad for you guys, and I cannot stress that enough. So please be careful when you do that. Anyway, we're going to trim, then we'll do a sanding, we'll do a wet sand, and then we'll do a nice epoxy clear coat, and then these pieces will be all done. Now, some people have been asking, how are we going to be bonding these pieces together? Because that's, obviously one of the steps that's important to this process. Man, these are going to go together absolutely perfectly. I'm so excited about that. What we're going to do, Josh is talking about using like some sort of bonding or panel bond, I believe it's called. 3M makes a product that is specifically for bonding panels together. So that'll probably work quite well. I was also considering doing something where I take another layer of fabric, another layer of carbon fiber fabric, and lay it around the entire inside perimeter. Anywhere there's a joint, I'll just kind of epoxy it in place and just kind of keep it together that way. That'll be a nice strong bond as well, but so that's another option that I'll be exploring. But very happy with the progress so far. This is really starting to come together, and it's going to be a thing now, which I think is, ultimately what we're really happy about, is that it's working. This process is working better than I think either of us had intended to. So really excited about that. And there are many more panels that are gonna come. I have to do the other fender, the passenger side fender, and then both rear portions of the car as well. And then there's also going to be the trunk area or boot where the engine would go. And we are planning on putting an engine back there because we do like scale points. So there is a lot still happening with Class 1. Not to spoil Josh's next episode, but there's already a chassis that works. I know. Things are happening at a rapid pace, and Josh is doing all the work. It's fantastic. It's just the way I always hoped it would be. Okay, let's move on to Class 2, because we've got some cool stuff happening there as well. Okay, so Class 2 is definitely going to be the Axial SCX10 Pro. Here it is in its completed form. If you were following along, I built this last week, live, on Sunday morning and afternoon. Not a difficult build. Very good instructions. This one went together well. And what are we, 2 weeks, 1.5 weeks? Let's see if there's any leakage on the shocks. Nope, totally clean on all 4 of them. These are the shocks to get, gentlemen and ladies. I do feel like Axial hit a home run with this right out of the box. So far, so good. Still not wired up completely. Still haven't put any power to it yet. I don't have time. There's so many things going on, and there's so much snow on the ground, so why even bother? Anyway, great chassis. Really excited to get going on this one. Reef's Smart 1100 for steering. Reef's 800 IS internal spool winch. And what I've got in there now is a 1950 kV brushless, non-censored motor from Furatech. And I was planning on running their Furatech ESC. That's still up in the air. It really does kind of depend on how it tests and how it runs. I am going to test this before we get to the Rockies. That's mandatory. Have to do it. Whether I test it with my final body or not, hard to say. But needless to say, Josh's cage will be coming off. This isn't going to be part of this build, most likely. Maybe I'll use the flatbed, maybe not. We don't know yet. But in terms of body choices, I'm sure you got a good look at it in the thumbnail. It's not a power wagon, though. Bonus points if you knew exactly what this body is or what it will be. If you don't, it's a Volvo. Yep, I'm doing a Volvo hardbody for Class 2. Using the similar process from before where I am 3D printing the body panels, gluing everything together, reinforcing with shoe goo, and I will probably end up doing a carbon fiber epoxy layer on the inside of the body to strengthen it even further. I am very much looking forward to that because this carbon fiber, it's changed my life. It's so exciting. I love working with it as a medium. It's very fun. Anyway, yes, Volvo Suga, old military Volvo vehicle, not super popular, not very well known. Sort of as well known probably as their other military vehicle, the C303, which I have made many of. An excellent build, I might add, because it's just a box, super easy. This one's a little more complicated. I found this excellent body model on CG Trader, another great resource, mostly meant for video game use, but this one actually was designed to be 3D printed. It is the proper width, it looks fantastic, tons of great detail, and yeah, we're just getting started on it, but you can already tell it's gonna be a compy little body. And I'm really, really excited about the process of putting one of these together and ruining this great performing chassis with a nice solid hard body. It's always the way I like to go. I need to have some looks to go with that performance, and if it sacrifices performance, I'm for it. There's gonna be a lot of work to do. This represents about, I don't know, 10 hours of printing. There's a lot more printing to do, of course. I think Josh ended up helping me section this and remove some of the elements that I wouldn't need, like fenders, to make this ready for printing. So we've got at least the cab, and then another piece, and then the rear. So it may end up actually being a bit longer than what's shown here, but that should work just fine. Josh did end up modeling this and putting it on a VS410 just to see how width and length it was going to work. So this is going to be a nice option, I think. I am really excited because on initial impressions, it might look a bit like the Power Wagon, but it is definitely not a Power Wagon. There's an opportunity for a full interior. There's an opportunity for a full interior cage. It's going to be awesome. I'm really, really super excited. So there you go. That's sort of some progress on C2. And definitely now that I've got a direction in mind, I can start to really plan out the details. And I'm very, very excited about this one. I think this is going to be a lot of fun, especially for you to watch at home. So with that in mind, if you've got any good ideas about what color I should go with this year, and if it should match the theme of Class 1, or if I should continue the same livery that I've decided on for Class 1 and carry that over into Class 2 and 3 for that matter, let me know down in the comments below. Post your comments. You know I love reading through your feedback, and I try to answer as many of them as I can. And if you're enjoying this series or any of the other videos you find on the Scale Builders Guild, hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so you get updates anytime there's a new video from the Scale Builders Guild. I'm excited. Things are happening. There is progress. These trucks are going to be awesome. That Porsche, man, over the moon with how that's coming out so far. My thanks to Josh for putting all the work into making all the working files that we need to print all these molds, to get all this stuff done, and showing me the way. All right, I think that's going to do it. Thank you so much for watching. See you again in 2 weeks.